Hello, folks. Welcome back again for another fun-filled day, and our newest episode 35. This mad scientist across from me is
Mark.
Yes.
This very well-dressed gentleman over here is
Elmer, and we are Marc and Elmer's Psi.
Piano Scene
Investigations. That's what we do.
How are the boys doing? The boys over here.
Hello. They've been. Have they had any their midterms yet?
Oh, no midterms.
No midterms.
You know, I was working with them.
Okay, wonderful. So, you sent me a couple links there that were pretty interesting.
Yeah.
The Heart of Chopin.
Wasn't that interesting?
Exhibited in China, of all places.
Interesting.
I didn't know that story about his heart.
I had read about it before. He had written his sister.
Yeah.
That when he died, he actually wrote a letter to his dad when the Russians came into Poland.
Right.
And there was a revolution of sorts. Right. And a lot of his friends joined in and everything. And his father told him to stay there in Paris. And fight for Poles with his music. And he never went back to Poland after he left. And, you know, he died from tuberculosis. And he had asked that his heart be returned to Poland and buried in Polish soil. So after he died, they cut out his heart. His sister put it in French cognac and took the container back to Poland. And it's, I guess it's at the museum. I don't think it's there for people to look at, but inside a nice container. And there's a Chinese composer, musician, who's being remembered in this city in China. I don't remember the details. And they have all kinds of things from the Frederick Chopin Museum, probably in Zalazowa, including his heart. It's in China now.
Wow. I thought I knew everything about Chopin until I read that. I have never heard of that story.
That kind of thing isn't so unusual. People used to do interesting things with, especially the heart, in many cases. You know, it was harder to transport things. But
now, the other link you sent me was the one on the dream and nightmare works.
That was interesting.
That was very interesting. And folks, I don't remember who sent that, but you found it. But anyways,
it was a British article.
A British article?
Yeah, and they questioned members of one of the big orchestras.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the dream piece? Like violin, cello, viola.
Yeah, they went even percussion.
Yeah,
they
everything.
Everything.
The whole orchestra.
Yeah.
What's your favorite? I'm gonna get a pillow.
Okay, sure.
What's your favorite, absolute favorite piece to play? Your dream piece.
Yeah.
And then what's the nightmare
piece? Oh gosh,
that was rather interesting.
It was very interesting, and you know what? that kind of gave me an idea. Maybe we ought to it's time to give our viewers an assignment. Top 10 dream pieces, the top 10 nightmare pieces. That would be a good one.
Good one.
That would be a good one.
I've already spoken to my nightmare. That's the conclusion to the second movement of the Schumann Fantasy.
Oh, God. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, you've spoken about that. You can put that down again as one of your top 10. That is a nightmare.
That's a booger.
That is a booger. Okay, so we are officially going to have our assignment. The dream and the nightmare homework. Give us your top 10 dream piano works. I guess it's something that you've always wanted to play. And your dream nightmare
perhaps,
works.
and then if you've been very active,
Yeah.
what have been your favorite pieces to play? I mean, really, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And then your nightmare pieces, which could also include a specific experience with the piece that didn't go well for some reason. Something like that.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Oh, that would be very cool. Okay, so there's no due date for this, okay, folks? I mean, just whenever. I mean, I'll work on mine for the next couple of weeks.
I looked on the Facebook page recently, and I haven't put anything up since show 0024.
Yeah.
Haven't put anything up. And this show will be 0034. So we've done 10 shows since I put
Well, the one that you just uploaded is 34.
Was it?
Yeah, this
So
one's
will be
35.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've done 10 more shows that I haven't even talked about. But people have been looking at them. So
Yeah, thank goodness. And I hope you've all noticed we've been putting up timestamps on the comments section so they could find, direct yourself to the topic that probably interests you. But it's best to listen to the whole thing. Okay?
Mhm.
So go ahead and listen to the whole thing. It's great. But I have my favorite parts too. I'm sure you do too. But anyways, so it's been a rough week, folks. So this week we've had to take my dog Chewy to the vet twice this week. So we brought him into one vet Monday morning, and she's actually a holistic vet. So she deals with mushroom-based prescriptions, and she's into Chinese stuff as well.
I'm glad to hear that.
So are we.
There's some good traditional compound Chinese formulas, which are, of course, originally made for human beings. But they've discovered more recently, it's like in the last 25 years or so, there's a lot of more medical attention given to dogs beyond the normal kinds of things. And he has a big Grand Pyrenees, big old white doggy.
Yeah.
They're subject to dysplasia in the back and having arthritic problems with their spine and their back joints, especially.
Yeah.
French bulldogs, wiener dogs that carry, if they get fat, they carry some weight on that spine.
Yeah.
And it pulls on them.
Yeah.
There's one formula. I'll put some things down maybe, but the one really well-known one is Rehmannia 8. Rehmannia 8, because there's 8 ingredients. It's more than not when I see it, people making comments about it, like in Amazon.
It's for the spine?
It's for the animals, for the dogs. Okay. It's really good for the spine and dysplasia, things like that. Okay. It really helps to. The thing with Chinese medicine, what it does deal with symptoms, but it's not just like a pain blocker kind of thing like Western medicine can be. It actually, the idea of Chinese medicine is to restore the balance of qi in the body so that the body can do its own healing. That's fundamentally what Chinese medicine is about. Or a lot of ancient, like Ayurvedic medicine, where a lot of old shamanic based or oriented, shamanic founded medical practice are about. But it actually has a lot of thumbs up for working on the doggies.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it comes in, different things. Sometimes it's a powder and a gelatin capsule. Sometimes it's a little pill kind of thing. Sometimes there are these little tiny shotgun pellets. But one way or another, you can break them up and mix it up in wet doggy food.
Okay.
And they eat it, Food tastes a little bit different this time.
You do that really well.
Well, we had a lot of dogs.
Yeah. Well, anyways, his test came back according to this doctor, and I guess the one major concern is his thyroid.
Oh.
So the hormone production is down to 0.4.
Oh.
0.4, which is actually 10 times lower than the normal dog. And
thyroid is like the biochemical brain for the body. It kind of makes a lot of other things work.
Yeah.
In the system. So what does she say?
She says she's never had to work on, a dog with that low a number.
Oh.
So she says she recommends that we bring Chewy to this doctor who works on the other side of the building, who she works closely with.
Mm-hmm.
She says they're very good friends, and he could, he's been very accommodating with her as far as how she practices. Mm-hmm. And so we brought him there this morning. Mm-hmm. And you can tell he didn't like going there Monday. And so when we had to take him out again today, he was sort of expecting it. And, well, since you haven't mentioned anything about how, if I smell bad or anything, he farted all the way to the vets.
Oh.
He farted. It was so bad. Yeah, he was
nervous.
Yeah, he just kind of laid there in the back seat like this the whole time, and was going out, giving deep sighs, and then you'd hear. Then some of them were like slow.
Oh. Keep the windows open.
So we had to leave the windows open at that point. And he's never done that before.
Oh.
Usually he likes going out. He likes going to meet people, but for some reason or other, I guess he knew we were going back to the vets. I think he didn't really like that place very much.
No, they didn't like it.
So, but anyways, hopefully,
how are they going to treat the thyroid condition?
Well, strangely, as we had it, we took Chewy to a different vet about a month ago. It was the one on just off of 23, not too far from here, and they prescribed these pills for Chewy, and they suggested taking 1.5 of these pills a day. And so we brought the pills over for this new vet to look at. And he says, "Oh, I see you." And he looked at it. And he says, "Wow, 1.5." He says, "That is a little drastic," he says. Mm-hmm. And so, he says, "What I recommend is you only give one half of that. 1/2 of that a day." Uh-huh. He says 1.5, one whole pill and half a pill is a little extreme.
You know what the ingredients are?
I don't remember what it is, but Kathy recognizes the thing, and it was the canine version of the pill. Right. But he says it's prescribed for humans as well. Mm. But this was like she said, canine version. Yeah. And the other vet looked at it. And
never give the dogs adult level medicine.
Yeah.
For example, the Chinese stuff I told you about, there's a different. The formula is for adults.
Yeah.
And usually give less of it to a dog. It's like a child.
Yeah. Yeah. But basically, he said half a pill. And these pills were like tiny, like this. They were kind of long, but you could easily break it and just go and shoot it down his throat, and he'll be fine. He won't even notice it. He'll just go like that with his mouth, and it seems okay. And he says that would be the right dosage because you don't want to, exhaust the process. Really.
When are they going to test him again?
Probably about another month, I think. Yeah. About another month. is what I'm guessing.
They didn't suggest any beef liver at all.
Beef liver. Well, so far, we're going by what the holistic vet said last Monday, and she had some list of foods for a Chewy to have that's much more healthy than what they have, because of dry dog food. They heat that. It's just not. It's just not good for dogs. She says she recommended Old Farms and Viva.
I've heard of Viva.
Viva. So the other one I'm not familiar with, Old Farm, but she said she gets her dog Viva. So
you might check with the vet, but real liver, not something. But I mean, if you went to a butcher, and got some beef liver, said you're going to feed it to the dog.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big organ.
Oh yeah.
A lot of meat.
Yeah.
But you could chop it up, and I'd grind it up probably. Give it to him like some wet dog food. And sheep's liver, or calf's liver. No, that's too unnecessarily expensive. But cow's liver, or the other thing I'm thinking though is, I was thinking about this when you were talking about the farts. I've been, I studied Chinese medicine with Japanese shiatsu as a way of working with the body.
Yeah.
It's like acupuncture without needles, but it's chi work. I studied in Japan, and then I got certified study in the United States. So it's actually a side practice I have in shiatsu and Chinese medicine. And the thing I've been interested in the last 20 years, I was interested in it when I was in school. I really became fascinated with cellular biology. We had to study the same anatomy and physiology that was required of medical students in the state of Arizona, which is where I got my training. Yeah. We had a real nurse who taught the course, and a real monster textbook and everything. We studied all of it. But I was fascinated with cellular biology. But then I got interested in the whole issue of the gut biome. Because all animals are like this. Bacteria and viruses have grown along with us over eons that we've been around. And some of them we know, like Lactobacillus, for example, Bulgarius, Bifidyensis or something. Those are there's a lot of them in us. And there's good bacteria and there's bad bacteria. The bad thing about antibiotics is that they kill everything.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be to kill bad bacteria. And when we discovered them, all of us who are old enough, at least our age, for sure, remember, doctors used to dispense those things like sugar pills.
Yeah.
You got a cold, take some antibiotics for the flu or something.
Yeah.
And it turns out it's basically useless for that, really, because flu is a virus, so it's cold, it's a virus. COVID is a form of a cold virus. That's why they call it COVID-19. Yeah. It's a version, it works in the body like a cold virus. But what I've been discovering, I read this stuff, I get my news feed, I've got it kind of more personalized for things that I'm really interested in. I get a lot of science and medical articles.
Yeah.
It's incredible how important the condition of this is to this and this. In fact, I want to get something. I'll get up in a minute and show it to you. I'm changing something I've been taking. I was taking a prebiotic and a probiotic, very good, Bio Schwartz, specific company. I did my research and I found that they were quite good. They really worked well with me. I realized more when I started probably to study that stuff in the 90s. And remembering when I was a kid, I have always had issues. And I think I had a milk allergy, which we would have known in our time. Kids drink milk. I did notice that it's different if, when I was a young adult, we lived by a dairy that had unhomogenized, unpasteurized milk. It was raw.
Yeah.
milk. They would stick it to the cow,
Yeah.
and it would go right into the refrigerator area into a bottle. Young's Jersey Dairy.
Yeah.
But even the state of Ohio banned that while I was living abroad in the early 2000s. Huh. So the only way you can get raw dairy here, the way my sister got around it, is people buy a part of or a whole cow from a farmer. You own that cow, and so you get all your milk from that cow. So you're actually getting milk from your cow, your own personal property. And that way you can sidestep the laws. But you cannot buy it commercially anymore. I found that when I drank the raw milk, I didn't have any trouble. Huh. And more recently, I found there's a new strain. Well, it's not a new strain, but newly available. It's called A2 milk instead of normal milk. Mm-hmm. A2 is meaning it's a certain kind of cow, which actually is very old, genetically speaking, and they produce different milk. So I eat sometimes some granola or some cereal, good cereal, stuff like that. And I pour some milk on it, and I can eat it. No problems. No problems at all. A2. If I did the same thing with normal milk, or if I get a coffee and they put milk in it, I forget to say, oat milk or almond milk. I might as well take a little quarter cup of Drano and really rips me apart. Yeah. I remember thinking sometimes I got sick because my belly was kind of bad, and I would, when I was a kid. And I have those feelings occasionally now as an adult, but I realize it's not in my stomach, which is all the way up here. It's down here. It's in the intestines, in the gut biome. Okay. So I've learned to be really educate myself about this because they found that you need to keep these guys happy, really. And in doing so, your whole body will be healthier. My numbers, in terms of when they check my blood for certain things, stuff like that, are always better when I've been taking care of myself and I'm having, really nice normal bowel movements. It is that Beethoven had problems, right? So it's kind of musical. But the other thing, which I think is really interesting, is there is a connection. Is it through the vagus nerve? Directly between the large intestine and the brain, that it affects our mind. And they're beginning to look at, because I was also interested in the application of Chinese medicine to emotional mental issues. Back when there wasn't a ton of writing about it, and some people back in those days, I should have done it. They said, you should write this stuff, you should write an article and submit it to the Oriental Society for publication and stuff. Now, there's more people that have gotten on that bandwagon. They've published books about the health of the gut and how it affects the brain, the mind. They found that in certain kinds of depression, for example, a healthy gut makes for a better mind. And also, if the gut is happy in general, which means all the good bacteria can do all that they want, and when they go, it doesn't bother you, right? It can make a big difference between how your body evacuates a meal. Wow. And I'm wondering with the doggie, if you talked to your vet about that.
Yeah, we did talk about it.
If there's something he might be able to do about improving his gut bacteria.
Yeah.
I'm sure that part of it he was nervous.
Yeah.
But still.
Because he doesn't do that.
I mean,
Not that. He doesn't. He never does that. Tell you the truth. Yeah. He's never done it.
He's getting older.
Oh yeah.
Of course, with age, things change. I want to get that thing and have you show it to him.
Okay.
It's a new one that I've got. I love this company called the Garden of Life.
Okay. Cool.
And I'll get it and show you because this is the first time I'm taking this one. I'm going to start on it probably in the next couple of days because I'm beginning to run low on my other stuff.
Okay.
And I've found in working with myself, for example, I had a heart attack back in 2000. 16.
Mhm.
Didn't know, but I kind of had some issues late at night, early in the morning. And finally, about like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I think it was 3, something like that. It was this weird thing because I didn't have any numbness, any tingling, and I didn't have anything like real. And it wasn't in my chest; it was in my back, where I felt this like underneath the chicken wing, underneath the shoulder blade.
Shoulder blade. Yeah.
There's kind of a pain down on the left side of my back. It was behind the heart, in a way. Turns out it was a descending artery back there.
Wow.
And I didn't know that it was a heart attack because Laura was going to say, should we call the ambulance? You know, something. I said, I don't know. But the experience that I had was, I thought about, who's the famous cowboy that was really funny? Will Rogers.
Will Rogers? Yeah.
I thought about him because...
You're having a heart attack.
Well,
Will Rogers.
Because what I noticed as time went on is I would try to breathe quiet. Yeah, and you know the reason I wasn't sure what was going on.
Yeah.
Do you have this problem at all? Because I have had it most of my career as a pianist. A lot of pianists have upper back pain from tension.
No,
you know, and I will often just like bend over and open my spine.
My butt hurts when I'm sitting.
Well, sometimes, yeah.
My butt hurts.
But I get sometimes some the spine, and I've got a incline table.
Yeah.
Where you turn upside down and hang upside down, and you open things up. It's really nice. I've got another thing that I did, but anyway, I've learned to pay attention to that kind of stuff. And I was thinking, well, I'm just going to sit. I'm just going to deep breathe and just let the breath out. Every time I let my breath out, it's like there's a cowboy that had a lasso over my chest. And when there was space, he pulled the rope tighter.
Huh.
So I could not breathe in as deeply as I had before.
Okay.
And I would breathe out and pull it, make it a little tighter. And try to breathe in, and I couldn't breathe in very deeply. And so I finally said, I'm having trouble getting a good, decent breath. When I was young, I did yoga and a lot of breathing exercises. I do tai chi and breathing meditations and things like that. Despite my son, I got this big because I seriously hurt my lumbar spine years ago. And there was a 6-month period where I could barely walk. The pain was excruciating. I had to get physical therapy and different treatments and stuff for a while. And man, I put the weight up because I'm a fat Dutch boy. And I also got nervous and was like eating at home. Yeah. And I mean, I literally could only like walk a little bit like Charlie Chaplin, maybe for like 6 or 7 minutes and shuffle. That's how I moved for 6 months.
Wow.
And things went more and more numb south of the border. So I couldn't feel when I'd go to the toilet or anything like that. It was bad, scary. Eventually it came back and I did lose some weight, and then I have some issues back and forth with it. So it was so hot this summer, so I did very little walking outside, but I'm getting back into exercise, so I hope some of this will go away. But I had a heart attack. Turns out I went and sat out on the stoop. It was about 4:05, and the ambulance came up quiet with the lights on. I got in, and I told the guys, I said, I don't know if it is or not. And he strapped me up to check electrocardiogram or something in the ambulance. And he told the driver, get the hell to the hospital. He said, he is having a heart attack. And so I got there, and it was wonderful. Riverside Hospital, Columbus, Ohio. They were fabulous. Dr. Charles Botti, B-O-T-T-I, was my cardiologist. And, the people in the emergency room, they get a lot of questions and stuff. And they said, so when did you start to feel this stuff? And I said, 11, midnight. And they said, and you didn't come in until now? And I said, well, I didn't have all these symptoms that they say, you know? Yeah. And I said, I've never had a heart attack before, so I don't know
what it's supposed to.
I didn't know what it was. And as a pianist, you know, sometimes my back gets a little tied up. Yeah. So I said, next time don't wait so long, because you were cutting it close there. Oh, jeez. But it was amazing. So what the doctor did, he said it's not even surgery, it was a procedure. He put a stent in the descending rear artery. Okay. It's metal thing,
Yeah.
sleeve kind of thing, and then it just opens up and keeps
Blood flowing.
the artery open like that. 5 years later, 2021, I told Laura, last few days I've been feeling something a little familiar, a little weird in there. Not a heart attack per se, but something very familiar. And I went in and they checked me through, and he did little extensions in the same place and just a little bit longer on each end. He said, yep. Well, it was really cool because I grew up in a Dutch German family with really rich food. And, you know, dinner when Dad made it was kind of meat, potatoes, noodles or dumplings, and biscuits.
Ooh,
And
that sounds yummy.
boiled vegetables and something. You know, they were the primary thing.
Yeah.
And oh my God, one of the best donut places in the world is Schuler's Donuts in Springfield. But we ate stuff like that, you know. And I was very pleased when he went in and he worked on me. The only thing that was blocked was that rear artery. Everything else was clean. The reason I got off on that tangent though was I take some heart medicine now,
Yeah.
you know, to just keep things moving well. Blood pressure's fine. I don't have high blood pressure. My cholesterol was a little high. It wasn't terrible.
Right.
When you get up to 200, they're worried about it. It goes over. Mine sometimes went over. But one of the interesting things I noticed, I did some research. No, I'm not advising this. I'm not a medical doctor. But it worked for me. Also, I have a physician friend, Renee, who's very close. I did some reading because I'm a diabetic. It's in my family. My grandfather, my dad, and I just, you know, inevitably it was going to happen.
Right.
Especially, you know, weight. And I think part of it, the doctors told me if I lose weight, I'll probably be able to, the blood sugar comes down.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
But generally, it's, for a diabetic, it's in reasonable numbers.
Yeah.
But I ran out of my cholesterol medicine and forgot to renew it. And then when I went to renew it, they were out of stock for some reason. And I mean, couldn't get it from the supplier. I went like 3 months without my
Your prescription?
my prescription. And I was taking my sugar. I don't take it every day. I have several days. I don't do
Yeah.
that. But I take it, you know, stay on top and see where it is.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't change that much.
Yeah.
You know. Here and
You
there.
have it now.
I don't take it because in that 3 months, my general sugar number dropped 30 points. At least, and sometimes more. Every time I checked it, it was at least 30 points less.
Huh.
My diet was about the same. Believe it or not, the way I look and everything, I actually eat a really pretty good diet. Laura's a wonderful cook, but she's very careful and healthy about stuff.
Yeah.
We buy organic, and she's really a wonderful cook and a really nice person, you know, about things. And I have my little treats and stuff, you know, here and there, but I did some research and was starting to read that, and again, I'm not a physician, that cholesterol medicine actually will raise sugar.
Sugar. Okay.
And
Wow.
I conferred with Renee about it, and I found a plant-based cholesterol agent that I started to take, and the numbers came down more. I'm not there now because this summer's been a little weird, but generally, if you're between 90 and 110, for somebody like you, that's that's normal.
Yeah.
Right? For diabetic, 150 or 160, that's kind of normal for a diabetic with me. My numbers were getting down to 100,
Wow.
110. And I talked to my doctor about it when I went to see him earlier in the spring. And I told him, and he said, you know, he's 40, 45, he's a marathon runner, and good shape guy and stuff. Very quiet, very intelligent, interesting kind of guy. I wouldn't say he's like real handsy and soft, and you know, he's a little crusty, but he's a really good doctor. But he was interesting. I told him what had happened and what I've been doing and so forth. Yeah. He said, you know, when I did my internship as a medical student in the hospital. He said, I worked in the emergency ward, as most of us do for a period of time. And he said, I started to do my own study because he said there were people coming in with heart attacks or cardio problems in the emergency room, but they were in decent shape and they were not diabetics, but the sugar numbers were high.
Wow.
And in every case, he said they were taking anti-cholesterol agent.
Whoa.
And he said, I am one of those few doctors, and it's a very small percentage, who's not real keen on it. He said, now technically AMA and everything, I have to be, and the what you're supposed to prescribe and so forth is given and so forth. But he said to me something funny. He said, I kind of developed this kind of thinking over the years now. He said, if a guy up here in Delaware, let's say a farmer in Delaware came in and told me that, my other buddy farmer told me that if you get naked under the full moon and dance the chicken dance outside in your bare feet under the full moon, and it addresses a health problem, and it works, my advice to that farmer would be, keep doing your chicken dance under the full moon.
No clothes on.
I don't know why it works, but something's working. So keep doing your chicken dance. It's just a big biochemical soup in here. But the thing I've really come to appreciate is I think about myself spiritually in a way as well. I learned this from the spiritualists and Taoism and from a lot of thinking about things. I had a very interesting experience when I went to see Dr. Bobby, my cardiologist, for an annual checkup. This is a few years back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been 9 years since my heart attack. And 3 years since I had the little extra stent put in. I don't know, it was like at least 3 years ago at least. All these, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but if you go to the medical doctor's office, and because I studied stuff, I have the skeletal, these maps of the human body that you see in all kind of medical facilities. So the skeleton, there's the muscles, different aspects of the anatomy of the body. I have the muscles and the bones with the tendons and all, especially because of my shiatsu work and that.
Yeah. he
had one up which was of the endocrine system, which I remember when I did my study is really very mysterious how it works. You know, that's the thing that like creates tears or releases these little chemical catalysts in the body to do different functions. You know, like some of the vitamins that we take or that we get from our diet, the vitamins are not always, it's not the stuff itself. Like if you take the fish oil, all right, that's actually something in there which actually goes, it's good for your blood, good for your heart, good for some different things. But for example, a number of the B vitamins, which some of which are crucial, their fundamental effect on the body is the catalyzation that they do of activating certain things in the body. Well, I looked at the endocrine system and I was looking at this map and these connections. And I remember when we studied anatomy and physiology being really confused, I suppose. I mean, I got really high grades, almost 100% all the time on the test.
Up for another award again, huh?
But it was some kind of a mystery about like how it worked, you know. An endocrinologist is, I think, a really interesting field to be in, especially in more recent years because I know more. But I looked at that map on the wall at the doctor's office where he came in.
I've seen those. My dad had a book like that thick.
Yeah, that's right. Your dad was a physician.
Yeah.
And I thought in that moment, now my grandfather taught me to believe in the soul.
Yeah.
Unquestionably.
Right.
That was the last thing he taught me I've mentioned that in the show before when I sat with this dead body, and it was the last lesson he taught me in this realm. Because the body that was on the table,
yeah.
I absolutely knew in every possible that was not Grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
It was a shell. What had been Grandpa was gone.
Yeah.
But I never for a moment believed that it was like vanished, but that what had vivified the body, what had made everything about it. I'd seen him 3 hours before alive, and the look in his eyes, and the color, and the feel when he gripped my hand and everything.
Yeah.
All that was gone.
I was taught it was the marker. Marker.
So my grandpa told me that. I looked at that map of the endocrine system, and it made me think, not sure how it fits like this, but this machine is so complicated.
Of course it is.
It's astonishing. I mean, it's more than astonishing. It's almost unfathomable. I mean, even when we cut into it, you know, and have little slices and you can check, you know, I don't mean a real person, but, you know, sometimes prisoners or people who dip their bodies and they micro slice parts of them so they can study every little bit of the body all the way through. Yeah. It's like I have getting off on a super tangent, but I'll get back to this in a minute.
Sure.
It's like when we were in a master's degree in Wisconsin, we did a 2-week intensive study of the movement of a Haydn string quartet. I don't remember which one it was. It was one of the Sturm und Drang periods.
Yes.
Second movement, very beautiful, famous movement. And we were trying to figure out how it worked. I mean, how amazing it was. Basically, we did an anatomical and physiological study based upon harmony and structure and melodic phrasing and all that stuff in music. And at the conclusion of the 2 weeks, Dr. Rosen asked us, so what do you get from this study? What do you see from it? And it was always interesting. There were 6 of us, and the 3 musicologists sat on one side and the 3 performers sat on the other side of the table, and Dr. Rosen was at the end. And they were saying, you know, and then especially, well, structure this and harmony that. And, you know, secondary dominance, you know, things like that. And I said, you know, I've been asked in courses or commanded to compose pieces based upon what we've been learning and things like that. And I said, I thought I could probably write something in the style or something like that. But sorry, that's Alexa thinking we're talking to her. But what makes it great, what makes it intangibly beautiful and extraordinary, that's beyond what's on the page. I mean, that's true of any music. Yeah. And especially true of great music.
What makes it move?
There's that aspect. I mean, it's almost like Dr. Frankenstein creating a living being, you know. I said, I don't think I can do that too much. I did write one piece that Turkish people loved, that one E minor piece. Might have got it once. But anyway, I'm looking at that map in the doctor's office and I'm thinking, this is such an amazing machine. There's no way that one single internal entity is able to run all this. There's got to be like a lot of things going on.
Oh yeah.
No, you know, maybe there's one great supervisor, and then maybe there's one in here. But it's like when I used to see the German construction street crews in Germany when I was in Tübingen, and I thought it was always interesting. The Germans were supervising the foreign workers doing all the work in Hull or something in the street. You know? There's got to be all these workers. Well, I attended the spiritualist church for a period of time here in Columbus. And as I said, it came from that, but it also comes from Buddhism and from Taoism. I personally believe that, I thought it's interesting that the Pope talks as we, right? He's a we. Yeah. Kings are we. they're we because they're originally supposed to be descended from God, or they are God, incarnate as a human being, and command the people. Spiritualists believe that there is a team of spirits that all come together as a family and work together when we're incarnate. So there's a gatekeeper, there are protectors, and then there are teachers and healers, not teachers, healers and doctors and messengers. And then there's one teacher who kind of oversees everything. That's the spiritualist way of looking at it. The gatekeeper is the one that just watches entities come and go, messengers bringing things. It's like you need an upgrade, or you need this software improvement. They come in and do it. Okay, see ya. Taoism believes that macrocosmically, that all of the people that you know in any given lifetime are part of a soul family. And that family continues to often interact through reincarnations. Sometimes they'll be male or female, sometimes they're a friend, sometimes they're a family member, so forth like that. But there's that. And then when you meet someone in life where there's that real sense of familiarity that we get, like there's something more to it. It's almost like brothers in a way, That's because we're soul family. Well, and then I studied shamanism for almost 2.5 years with a woman. I apprenticed myself to her, and she taught me things, and and she identified actually my spirit guides. I'm not allowed to talk about those, it's a very private affair, but I think of myself, and it was like reinforced all of a sudden. I said, absolutely, this has to be the way this works. This thing is so amazing with the way the endocrine system works. First of all, without question, there has to be some kind of a divine order or construction or organization to all of it. And then it would take a team to make this work. So actually when I pray as we. I'm Mark Haig as an individual in this incarnation. And all of those various entities are working within me to make this thing work, And then that also includes other life forms, so that down here in the bowels, for example, the reason that we live really is because the food that we eat gets digested by little buddies down there. You just don't eat and then your body just kind of shreds it. No, they're living organisms inside of us. And the other thing I learned that in many cases when you get a virus, sometimes that virus is inside of us, and it just gets out of control. And also bad bacteria can get in as well. So I know I got way off for the tangent, but Beethoven had terrible bowel issues, so did Wagner. Wagner's had terrible skin issues. That's why I had to wear silk. Everybody thought it's because he's just involved in sex. No, it's the only thing you could wear that wouldn't drive me nuts, that would scratch you.
Well, thank you for that info.
Anyway,
that's what I thought.
But that's enough.
Yeah.
But as far as the doggie goes, I would maybe ask about the liver.
Yeah.
And I can give you some information about the liver, because a doggie like that size and that old, it really helps them move better. I've actually given shiatsu to animals sometimes, and I studied their anatomy so I know where they are. I had some very interesting experiences with them. When I was in Tucson, I had a practice, a bigger one, and whenever I go to visit people at their house and they had a doggie, the doggies would know, and they would make a beeline for me, and they'd come up to me, and I'd touch them in places, and then they'll move their body so that your hand is where they want it to be. With me, in this experience. And a few times I recommended the Romani 8 for the older doggies who had dysplasia problems.
Yeah.
In every case, it improved. Right here in Columbus, there's a woman who works with the opera company. She brought me both of her dogs, and one was a German Shepherd who was having some problems.
Yeah.
And I recommended it for him, gave him Shatsu, and she said it really improved with the vet. I said, "What is he taking? What's he doing?" He's a lot more flexible and moving, not so much pain. So I want to get that medicine, and I have you put it up in the things you can see, but it's this new probiotic formula I'm going to take. But you go ahead, I got you.
All right, I'll go ahead.
Of course, way off of your topic.
Oh, that's okay. So, but talking about the stomach, Kathy's convinced I've got a cast iron stomach. Everywhere we've ever eaten, even with friends and neighbors, I've never gotten sick. I just haven't. Years ago, well, not years ago, but maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, we had neighbors, a father and his stepson. They were both in the military, and we talked, on occasion. And anyways, one Christmas they invited me over. They had given me an invitation to do this the one chip challenge. I don't know if I ever told you about this. The one chip challenge, and supposedly maybe some of you have heard of it. It's the one chip challenge, and basically it's this very, very spicy tortilla chip. It is infamous for being the hottest chip in the world. I don't know what's in it, but it was definitely very, very, very hot. And so, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do this, but they kept egging me on to come over, and they were going to post a video on Facebook of us doing this one chip challenge, the three of us. So I go, and right there at midnight, we decide to consume our chips, one at a time, at 5-minute intervals. At 5-minute intervals. Okay, so we all drew straws to see who would go first, second, and last. And I last. So I was the last. So the dad was the first one. So he starts chewing his chip, and he's sitting there. He says, "Yeah, this one really has some real serious burn to it." And so he's chomping on it. He says, "Oh yeah, this is going to be bad." And so he just kept on chomping. 5 minutes later, his stepson does the same thing, and he's having a much different reaction than his stepdad. His face starts turning red. Okay, and soon, another 5 minutes later, I will be taking this chip. So, and it's unusual. The chip is black. It's black. It's black. And it's got this red powdery stuff all over it. And I later found out that you could have gotten nacho cheese flavor. And I asked him about why did you get nacho cheese flavor? And he says, I tried to. They were all out. So the only ones left were the black ones. And it's a deathly black chip. And so, anyways, to make a long story short, I did chop on the thing. And I think I've had the more extreme reaction to it than the other two.
Really?
Oh yeah. Not only did I get really hot, my face turned red, I started sweating and tears started coming out of my eyes. I was like, oh my gosh, this is really hot. By the time I was taking the chip, the dad said that the burn was starting to ease off a little bit. And then pretty soon his started to ease off. Mine lasted long, and I often wondered if they doctored it up or something, because mine lasted almost nearly a half hour. Theirs was almost gone in like 15 minutes. For me, it lasted longer. So, but anyways, the missus had milk ready for us and a big gallon of vanilla ice cream.
Yeah, water doesn't do it.
Yeah, water does not do
Water
it.
doesn't.
So, but anyways, make a long story short, it was very, very hot. I had the most extreme response to it. So the story doesn't end there, folks. So we go to bed. We're waiting. We're just sleeping, and the phone goes off. the phone goes off, and Kathy answers the phone. This is hello, and it's next door's neighbors. Okay, it's the wife, the mom, and the mom's like, he says, "Is Mr. C okay?" He says, "Yeah, he's asleep. Why?" He says, "Well," he says, the boys over here, they've got some really extreme upset stomachs right now."
Ooh.
You know, and so Kathy was being the nurse that she is.
Yeah.
"I'll be right over. I have something for them."
Mm.
You know, so she went to her nurse's bag and she got some stuff in the medicine cabinet and made a beeline over there.
Mm.
And so, anyways, she got over there and she was back at home in bed in about 20 minutes. And she says, "Are they okay?" He says, "Oh yeah, I just gave them some. I gave them some oils and some, you know, lotion or some. I don't know what she gave, but she mentioned oils, essential oils, basically." And so, anyways, she says, "Are you okay?" He says, "Yeah, I'm fine." You know, so that ship took out 2 military guys, but your husband's over here sleeping soundly. So, which explains why she would think that I have the cast iron stomach. But anyway, so what we have here, 1 daily minutes, digestive and immune system. This is called what? This is what?
It's a probiotic.
A probiotic.
With prebiotic in it as well. The fiber that you need to just kind of feed the bacteria to make them comfortable and happy, and then the probiotic helps them do their job well.
Yep. That's what it is.
So I'm going to give this one a try and see how it works. I switch things out every once in a while on purpose, just to give the body a break from the same thing.
Yeah.
But I also think the body can get used to something, and then it's not necessarily as effective. So I thought it was maybe time to give it a change. I hope things work out for Chewy.
Yeah, me too.
I'll send you some of that information. So
Okay,
that
thank you.
you
Appreciate it.
can look into it.
Yeah.
Poor dog.
I'll definitely remember the raw liver thing.
Yeah,
So,
cow, but no pig.
not pig,
Cow or sheep.
Yeah, sheep. Okay.
Cow's good because it's a monster organ.
Oh yeah.
Liver is a big organ.
Oh yeah, especially
And
coming from a cow.
Cow, it's huge.
Yeah.
You get a lot of meat out of it. But see what she thinks about that, because I think it might. But at the same time, you might want to look into some kind of a gut healing thing as well.
Okay.
Because it might, it's sometimes be very rich.
Okay.
You know?
Gotcha.
But I think it can help with the blood and help with this other problem.
Okay.
Anyway.
So, folks, let's talk about piano.
Yeah.
So, if
Well,
you
I tried to fill a little bit.
yeah, I know you did. So, last week we talked about child prodigies. We did. We talked about child prodigies. Now, not all child prodigies are created alike. Okay. Let's talk about pianists, you know, who had to overcome certain trauma experiences. Some of them, you know, have developed much differently. And I remember somebody, I don't remember who said it, but it was in the martial arts field. They said it's not about whether you study kung fu, jujitsu, taekwondo, karate, but it's not about the style, it's about the man behind it. You know, and much can be said about that, even in the piano world, really. You know, I mean, you can have the best teachers in the world teaching you the right things, but depending on the individual, you know, it may not mean anything. You know, so, which at this point, I want to introduce you to the next segment of our show today,
Okay.
which is PSI at the movies.
Okay. So, guys, do you like your hat?
Oh yeah, I like that hat. It's really fun. I like Grandma's hat too. It's
Yeah.
a good hat.
Oh boy, you know, I haven't smelled that It's much stronger today.
Popcorn.
The popcorn smell.
Yeah.
It's much stronger today. What is it with the popcorn? So, welcome back, folks. Welcome, folks, old and new, to PSI at the movies. Get your popcorn ready. We are going to talk about pianists again, about overcoming trauma. So, in 1996, this movie, I think it won Best Picture. It definitely won Best Actor.
Oh,
1996, and I bring to you
I've never seen this one. I think I know what it is. Right?
Shine.
I've never seen
You've
Shine.
never seen Shine? Okay.
No. True story. Health God, right?
Yeah, yes, it is. David Helfgott. So some of you are not familiar with this movie. I would imagine a lot of the young ones are not familiar with this movie. This is about the David Helfgott. He's Australian. He was a child prodigy, and he has a father who was, to say the least, very dictatorial. He was pretty much, very subservient to his dad, did everything he was told. And his father would put him through pianistic regimen that was just absolutely ungodly.
His father was a piano
His
teacher.
father was the piano teacher, but the guy doesn't play himself. He doesn't play. So the very fact that his boy, was taking lessons from his father, who doesn't play, who doesn't read music, basically, this could be one of the first miracles, a boy who taught himself how to read music. Because he eventually wins a competition in Australia, which one of the judges is Isaac Stern, who invites him to come to America to study with in the greatest schools in America. And he wants to go, but his father puts his foot down and says, no.
Wow.
So now, to get an idea what I mean by what this father put him through, he was 9 years old, and his father was getting him to learn the Rachmaninoff Third Concerto at 9 years old. And he really wasn't ready for that. He really wasn't. When he was a child, I guess there was a competition for young people that he entered, and he played the Heroic Polonaise, and believe it or not, did not win. He did not win. But however, there was one of the judges who did admire his talent and wanted to take him under his wing. So basically, he taught the young boy, the young David Helfgott, the rudimentaries of proper piano technique, proper fingering, and gave him all the proper kind of repertoire he should be studying. Lots of Mozart, Bach, and all of that. So anyways, fast forwarding. His father, once again, he, like I said, didn't want him to go to America. As a matter of fact, he didn't even want him to leave the house. But he knew he was growing up at one point and decided that he really needed to leave the house, that he was going to build a career as a pianist. He wanted to be a pianist. So where does he go? He goes to England. He goes to England, and he studies with, I don't remember the name of the professor, but the professor is played by one, John Gielgud.
Oh, really?
Yes, John Gielgud plays his piano professor. And so they're, eventually, his technique becomes good enough and well advanced enough that John Gielgud asks him, so you really think you're ready for the Rock Third? Let's see. There's a bit of a montage in the film where he's practicing and they're going through lessons and his teacher's yelling at him and waving his arms and singing and all this, and he eventually does learn the work, and it was his tirelessness of mastering the work after performing it, he actually winds up with his nervous breakdown and winds up in this institution. Now, the main focus of this movie was the trauma from his father. Okay, especially at the very beginning, the first, I don't know, roughly 30 to 40 minutes. It's hard. I don't know, folks. It's hard for me to imagine having a nervous breakdown, being desperate enough to learn the Rock Third Concerto. We have had pianists that have had worse trauma than that. Ruth Slochinska.
Yeah.
Ruth Slochinska. There's a book about Ruth Slochinska. You can find out about her childhood in her book, The Forbidden Childhood. She wrote it herself. She talks about how her father, would during their sessions would try to get her to do things at the piano that he frustratingly couldn't do. And when he didn't get what he wanted, he would pick up the poor child and heave her across the room. So it's things like that. But anyways, let's talk about Chime, 1996. Scott Hicks is the story writer and director. Jan Sardi wrote the screenplay. The movie was produced by Jane Scott. You might recognize the cast here. The cast members: Jeffrey Rush, who won Best Actor for for his role as David Helfgott as the adult. The young Helfgott was played Alex Rafelwich. He was a child. Noah Taylor, who also was given at least an honorable mention as the teenage David Helfgott. Who else do we have here? John Gielgud played the piano professor. The character's name is Cecil Parks. I've never heard of him. But anyways, Randall Berger plays Isaac Stern. Armin Mueller-Stahl plays David Helfgott's father, Peter. Okay, so the music department in this movie. This is interesting. The composer of the original score for this movie is David Hirschfelder. And of course, the pianist is David Helfgott. But there is another pianist in the movie, Ricky Edwards. He is the pianist, the orchestrator, and the conductor in this movie. I couldn't figure out who the orchestra was. I just looked through the credits.
Is it a British or Hollywood-made film?
I think this was British. I'm pretty sure it's British. I mean, with the likes of Noah Taylor and Jeffrey Rush.
And John Gielgud.
I would imagine it was. But anyways, now, the Chime, you're looking for... Okay, I'll just be honest with you. I like the movie simply because of what David Helfgott represents. In a lot of ways, what he did, was really not his fault. He wanted to be a pianist, and he became one. I mean, he had to struggle to get there. Now, interestingly enough, I forgot to mention this in the cast, but I think it was Vanessa Redgrave, or Redgrave? I can't remember. The actress?
Well, they're both actresses.
They're both actresses? I think it might be Vanessa.
What are you talking about?
She played
Vanessa played
Isadora?
Isadora.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Okay. She played David Helfgott's wife in this movie. Okay. And believe it or not, her character found him at the mental institution or a home. And she used to play piano there. And one day she sat down at the piano and played for the patients, and David Helfgott just sort of crept up and woke up, sat next to her, and at first she didn't recognize him until she took a good look and thought, "Oh my gosh, you're David Helfgott." And so, she was shocked to actually find him there at the institution. She eventually takes him home with her. And strangely enough, her character was into astrology and numerology.
Mm.
And so when she was doing some readings about her future and about David Helfgott, that was her source and how she decided to marry this guy. So they wind up getting married. But anyways, there you have it. This is Shine. I liked the movie. I couldn't see it twice. Once was enough. I might see it again. In the next year or two. Don't know yet. But if you're interested, there's some nice piano music in it. The soundtrack is. Now there are some controversialities about this movie. David Helfgott's siblings have stepped forward to discredit how their father was portrayed in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
They said he was a loving father. He was a good husband and good father. He always helped the kids and was very nurturing. Apparently, some people didn't see him that way. The other controversy concerning the film, is mostly about David Helfgott's playing. Okay, the critics were quick to respond and review to the soundtrack recording of David Helfgott's playing. Now, granted, he's not. He wouldn't fit. Certain standards.
He's not Yun Chun.
He's not Yun Chun Lim. Definitely not that. He's not even Ashkenazi or Pinario or these other guys. He's not even that. Basically, he's a performer.
Well, I thought that I never saw it because '96 is when I went to Japan.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think it came out when I was over there.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of missed it, and I'm always a little wary of films about concert pianists and stuff like that, because they're usually kind of corny.
Yeah, exactly. Corny.
And my impression is everything I heard about it, though, it was more about not so much that he's a piano player, but about his mental struggles.
Yeah.
Was he what's the word? Autistic or on the spectrum, or did he just have a nervous breakdown?
He had a nervous breakdown, but they tried to. I think it was a number of things, because basically he underwent shock therapy.
Yeah.
As well, he underwent shock therapy,
What
and
period
after
of time
that,
was
it
this?
really wasn't the same.
Is this the 50s or 60s?
Something like that.
Yeah.
50s or 60s.
Yeah, they were still doing stuff like that back in those days.
Yeah. So you see him, in the movie.
I'm not sure
And
what
he's on the table, and they got this thing here with
Biting
wires,
down
and he's
on
biting down on something, and after they give him a
That
few
is
shots
nuts.
here and there, and then afterwards you see this,
I think they still
Foaming in
use
the
that
mouth.
treatment, but I think they're more gentle with it now. But I was watching a documentary, I think it was a Y-Files thing, where he was talking about stuff like this, and it was that famous doctor that used to take the ice pick and go into the ice.
Oh, lobotomy?
Yeah, they used to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure when they quit doing that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they have. But, anyway.
Yeah.
I was thinking about when you mentioned this, I immediately thought of, remember A Beautiful Mind?
I
With
do.
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe.
Amazing mathematician.
Yeah.
And then it turns out at the end of the movie, or as it goes on, one wonders if these amazing constructs that he had put together and everything were really that amazing.
Yeah.
If it wasn't just a magnificent world that he created in his mind.
Yeah.
On the other hand, then there was Benedict Cumberbatch did The Imitation Game.
Yeah.
Where he plays Alan Turing, who was the one who created the machine that broke the German code.
Yeah.
And basically he created the first computer, a modern type computer, and it was able to read all the German messages like in 43.
Huh.
But the tension and all of that was, and it was all top secret and everything. The British knew how to read every single letter and grammatical marking in every German communication.
Wow.
But it was very interesting. They'd worked with the Americans and they said, we can't let them know that we have this.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Germans did have a really seriously difficult code before that. And once they broke it, then they knew that they were going to win the war. And of course, we didn't technically win until 45.
Yeah.
But they intentionally made military mistakes in some places, like a famous place on a bridge in northern Belgium, where there were a lot of Allied soldiers that died. And people in England and in America knew that these guys were slaughtered. But they realized that if the Germans found out that the British could read their communications, they'd create a new one. And then we'd be back at square one and have to start all over again.
Yeah.
So they strategically, just carefully, they knew they were going to win the chess game eventually, but they played a slow game of chess and they allowed some, important members to be taken off the board occasionally until they finally strangled them. Put an immense amount of stress on jury and other people who just really almost couldn't deal with the slaughter of so many innocent soldiers.
Yeah.
But, the argument was, we're going to win this war, and we can win it, in another year or two. But that's better than if we start winning every single battle, and then the Germans are just going to figure out, don't know how they're doing it, but they're reading our code, they're reading our information. And, they had great scientific people in Germany, so let's come up with a new one, in which case the war could have lasted God knows how long.
Yeah.
Or worse,
Yeah.
it might have turned the other way.
Exactly.
So, but it made me think about something like that. What's the one about the Jewish guy who plays the piano and he's kind of like escaping from the Germans? There's a point in the film where he plays on a
The
piano.
Roman Polanski movie,
Yeah.
The Pianist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never saw that movie.
You never saw that one either?
That one and Sophie's Choice I've never been able to watch.
Okay.
Because there's something. Now, I've read a lot of stuff about Nazi history and all that, and to some extent the Holocaust. I remember, when I was young, I was really proud of my German heritage and all that. Actually, more Dutch, but there's German in there, too, a lot of German. But I was reading William L. Shirer's book on Hitler and the Second World War. And I remember at one point, I was reading the book when I stayed at Professor Wynn. I sat out on the back steps and waited for Mom to come pick me up. For the first 2 years, 14 and 15 years old, and upwards slightly to 16, Mom took me to my piano lessons down there. And then I drove myself eventually after that most of the time. But I was waiting out on the back steps. I remember sitting out there in the sunshine in the late afternoon. And I got to the first chapter about the Holocaust. We were taught about the Holocaust, about World War II history and stuff in school. Mm-hmm. But this brought it into a kind of focus that at the age of 15, it just made me almost puke. It was just sickening.
Yeah.
And then there's the second chapter dealt with more of it. And anytime I see things about that, I am so viscerally disgusted, but it's also horrified that such evil really could happen. I mean, God knows it's not the first time ever in human history. Well, in the last Pol Pot and the Cambodians killed 1/5 of their population in equally bad. In Mao during the 10 years they shut things down and took all the intellectuals and the academics and all the people and put them in camps and stuff. I could never watch Sophie's Choice because the whole thing about Sophie's Choice, I understand.
Yeah.
She had to make a decision about one of her 2 kids.
Yeah.
Which one, for whatever reason, was going to survive and which one would not.
Yeah. That's horrible.
I can't fathom that. And I mean, some movies are made really well, and
That's one.
when you got an actress like Meryl Streep or something like that, I have never watched that film, and I know what it's about, but just that I know what it's about is enough.
Yeah.
But I can't watch it, so I don't know how I'd feel about watching it. I mean, you said you watched it once, and it was enough.
This one. Yeah, it's.
Is it because it wasn't that great, or it was bothersome?
Well, not so much bothersome, but I found some of it. Well, okay, I'll be honest. I found some of it needlessly superfluous.
Huh.
Okay, the montage I thought was too long. The montage.
So it's doing glamorizing the whole situation. Maybe for the sake of drama.
Yeah.
Maybe they overplayed the
Basically,
relationship
the montage,
between the father and the son.
montage was a Rocky moment. Okay, you've seen Rocky. You know, he's over there. You know, when he's doing the montage where he's just exercising, boxing with a heavy bag, doing 1-arm push-ups, and going you know, doing all that stuff. Okay, basically, you watch him practice. You get to watch him getting yelled at his piano teacher. You get to see him, you know, practicing one hand at a time. You get to watch him practice blindfolded.
You know,
things like that.
Another film we're going to discuss soon, there's a piano teacher involved, and she said something that really struck me.
Yeah.
Great pianist, a great artist,
is
a combination of a very cold, calculating mind and a huge heart. A very big, huge, warm heart. And I thought that makes a certain amount of sense because the work that we do, I mean, they often say that the kind of study and the work that a successful concert artist, talking about the really great orchestra players and concert pianists and such, the time that it takes to prepare ourselves to play the Rachmaninoff Third or something like that, is equivalent to what it takes a doctor or a physician to prepare themselves to practice medicine on a human being. Doctors are generally thought of as pretty smart people, especially surgeons, and their hands and stuff. I mean, worth gold.
Oh yeah. I'm sure they have to watch the caffeine levels too.
I mean, I'm alive because of Dr. Body, and I hugged him at one point afterwards, and I cried because I said, "Thank you for saving my life." And he cried a little bit, and he said, "Well," he said, "it's a worthy profession." He said, "You know." We spend years studying, and
we torture ourselves. It's torture.
And yet, you know, as Rubinstein said, the irony is that when you actually go out and play, you're supposed to make it look effortless and like it's fun.
Yeah.
And then I remember I created, when I was a teenager at Wittenberg, I went to the library and I found old Life magazines, and I Xerox all kinds of pictures and things of Arthur Rubinstein. And I make a big oversized scrapbook on board paper. And I have my booklet I made about Arthur Rubinstein.
Wow.
And I remember one picture, a black and white one, from back when he did this amazing thing around 1960 at Carnegie Hall. He played 16 piano concertos in 2 weeks. All the Beethovens, the Brahms, the Chopins, the Liszts, Schumann, Grieg, you know, all these different things. And then he played, was it 10 recitals?
Something like that.
Of solo music over a month and a half.
God, that's grueling.
Didn't repeat one piece.
That's grueling.
10 full, I mean, New York recitals at that time, 2.5 hours. So big recitals. And didn't, and at that time, 60, he was 78 years old.
78 years old.
73 or something like that. Something, I don't know.
What a guy.
And there's a picture of him from the back.
Yeah.
And he was not a big guy. He was like 5'6" maybe or something.
Well, actually, he was taller than Horowitz.
He was, so maybe 5'8" or something. But
Yeah.
anyway, the picture's taken from the back, and he's got his hands over the radiator backstage, and you can see Carnegie Hall stage out there.
Yeah.
He's got his hands over the radiator. He's got his tails on and everything bent over, and warming his hands to the radiator. And the quote was, "My nerves are the price that I paid for my career."
Oh my gosh.
At that age and about to go out and do those kinds of things. And you hear it from all these artists and everything. It's one thing that you maybe get a little used to it, and you go out and you know how to turn it on and do it. But that doesn't mean almost everybody is nervous.
Yeah.
Because it's a superhuman achievement. It's like when those poor soldiers in the trenches in World War I.
Yeah.
At some point, they're going to run up out of the trench and run against the enemy.
Yeah.
You're commanded to do it. It's what's your job. You do
It
it.
is. Yeah.
And at some point, I mean, there's some stories about Horowitz.
Yeah.
I think in his 65 comeback,
Yeah.
was really nervous about going out on stage,
Yeah.
and somebody actually pushed him in the middle of the
Yeah.
back to go out
Yeah,
the
that's
door.
what. Yeah, it was Sky. What's his face? I can't remember his name. I think his first name is Sky. He said he was getting ready to walk out, and they were going to open the door until Horowitz turned around, and he was completely white.
Yeah.
Completely white.
He retired for 12 years.
Yeah.
and
So
played
the
both.
guy carefully turned Horowitz back around, put his hands in his lower back, and shoved him out.
And then there's the famous beginning of that Bach Busoni.
Yeah.
Bum, bum, ba-da.
Yeah.
And the amazing thing is,
Yeah.
they left it in the historic recording.
Yeah.
Yum, bum, ba-da. He makes a mistake.
Yeah.
Horowitz, the only time when he might have made a little mistake
Yeah.
is when he was playing octaves faster than an Italian driving an Italian sports car,
Yeah.
in some of the concerti or something. Once in a while, because it's just brilliantly fast and
Yeah.
exciting and everything, and it's just like being able to just contain it.
Yeah.
I mean, even Georgie Schiffer occasionally,
Oh yeah.
hit some wrong notes with playing, but my God, what he was doing
Yeah.
and how fast he was doing it, and everything was just beyond human
Yes.
imagination.
And improvised. On
So,
the spot.
bump, 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 and it was said that Van Cliburn was in the audience.
Yep.
There was all kinds of people there.
Yep.
And they all caught their breath. But then immediately, and off he goes.
Yeah.
And then it was fine.
Yeah. But
But
look at that
very,
program.
very clearly he was scared to death.
Oh, what are you?
Yeah, of
Look at the
course.
program. Holy crap.
God.
The Schumann Fantasy on
And he
there.
played Rachmaninoff second too, didn't he?
I
Was
don't
it
know.
not at that concert?
No, it was not that good. It had Schumann Fantasy, but he also had the Scriabin number 9 on there.
Yeah.
But
Unbelievable.
let's see. Oh gosh, a bunch of other pieces. I think.
And it's
So
true though,
good.
when you see Arthur Rubinstein play, he always had this kind of bon vivant kind of way. It's like he loved doing it. I think he loved doing it.
Oh yeah.
But he still said, I get as nervous as anybody when it goes out. Because, and there are those moments where he talks about it himself.
Yeah.
Said, sometimes it's a little bit of a mixed salad, and you just,
That's what he said.
or as Ellsworth used to tell me, when I went out to do the live radio
Yeah.
performance, swim.
I love it.
He says, swim for sure.
Swim.
That's all I said. And I did really well. Gunnar Johansson called and left a message on my phone.
Yeah. I wish you had saved that message.
Man.
I really do.
That was so amazing. We got home and the light was blinking. And hello, Mark. This is Gunnar Johansson.
God.
Shit, Robin was there too. And I said, I just wanted to say, bravo. What a brilliant performance. He said some nice things. But it was a little digital chip that recorded stuff for a while.
Yeah.
And I kept it on the machine until some other people had called and left messages. In some cases, just stupid bullshit messages. But the machine automatically, once it was full, it would erase. and be ready to receive more messages. So I lost.
Painful.
Well,
So-
good for you. So you think I should watch the movie?
So I think you should watch the movie.
Should I watch The Pianist?
Don't watch The Pianist.
Don't watch The Pianist.
Don't watch The
I
Pianist.
saw one scene from it where he goes into this.
If you want, you could watch the ending. Watch the ending. I mean, if anything, watch the end because what's his face at the end winds up playing Chopin's Dante Spinato and
Yes, I've
Polonaise
seen
with the
this.
orchestra,
Oh no!
and it looks very convincing. I mean,
The scene
must
that
have
I've seen
taken
it, and I'm
lessons.
not sure why.
What?
Is the Germans are withdrawing from wherever he happens to be, and he's
Yeah.
managed to stay
Yeah,
away
yeah,
from him.
Yeah.
And he goes into this big house on the piano, and he sits down and plays it.
Yeah.
And the SS officer shows up at the door and is hearing him play.
Yeah.
And he sees him. I don't remember if they talk or not, but
yeah. They do talk.
and he just walks away.
Yeah, I remember that scene. That's a catapulting moment.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's an interesting movie. Now, Shine, very, very different from this one, from what we saw last week. Vitus. I left this movie
We
here.
talked about it last week.
Yeah, we did.
Laura and I watched it last night.
Here, there's a reminder. I'll show it to you again. Vitus, Shine, 2 movies, very different.
I wanted to talk about Vitus. Can I do that?
Yes, you may. Because I'm curious to hear what you have to say about it.
Okay. So the premise of this is it's a Swiss movie, and Vitus is the name of the boy. He's a Swiss boy.
Yeah.
And he is off the charts brilliant. From the time he was a little baby,
Yeah.
going through, being a young kid. He's extraordinarily brilliant. And when he's like 5 years old, he plays the Knight Ruprecht.
Yeah,
Schumann.
yeah.
For the people at the house party. Actually, at that age and at 5, and then he's starting to practice at age 5, the Liszt second Hungarian Rhapsody. Is that it?
Yeah. Oh, it's a 6. Number 6.
Liszt 6.
Number 6.
Yum-ba-ba, yum-ba-ba, that one. Yeah.
That's the one.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Actually, it's pretty impressive because I didn't play it at the age of 5.
5 either did I.
But I suppose in a certain kind of way it's impressive, but what's impressive is when he gets to be 12 years old. So John kind of moves from 5 to 12.
Yeah.
And there's this point where he's just a younger guy, and I know they make a birthday film, and he's playing a little Casio type thing. And they say, we got to get him a piano. Look what he's doing. He's like playing by ear and playing the melody.
He
and
figured out
harmonizing and
Happy
stuff.
Birthday. Yeah.
And he convinces his dad, who works for a company which manufactures hearing aids. And his dad's an engineer, but he's kind of a brilliant on his own guy. He never finished university. And he has a kind of a stigma about that, especially not so much from the boss man, the father owns a company, but from the son of the boss man.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not buddies. But the father convinces the boss man to go with his new designs for the hearing aids and stuff, and they're a very successful company as well. So time passes along. They're doing okay. They have an interesting apartment, an old 1930s apartment building, and he gets an upright piano. And interesting, I'm sure the Yamaha's featured all the time in the movie.
Yeah.
Which was interesting to me because I was thinking, why Yamaha? If only because Vorwerk in Austria makes a beautiful piano, upright, really good, and Steingraber. I mean, there's a lot of great German instruments, but it's Yamaha.
Yeah.
They must have put money
Contract.
into the thing. Bruno Ganz, the German or Austrian actor, I'm not sure from whichever. It's very interesting because I speak German. I understand that. Bruno Ganz in the film actually speaks not only Schweizerdeutsch, which is the Swiss version of German, but he speaks a dialect, a mountain dialect of it.
Wow.
I kind of understood things, more or less. I tried not to read the
Captions.
which are excellent, really good, excellent. The English, it's succinct, but it says exactly what they're saying. And I loved it because There's a lot of idiomatic speaking in the German, which is translated in a way into the English where it's also idiomatic, but it was very interesting seeing how we say it in English and how they say it in German. And mind over here and mind over there is very different. But Bruno Ganz is his grandpa, and he's a woodworker. That's what he does, cabinet maker and things like that. He lives out in the countryside in kind of a farm, old house building. He and his son are a little bit, divided away from each other. His son likes the good life in the city and all that, and the grandson, Vitus, goes out on the train and visits his grandpa, spends a lot of time with him. One of the important things that's happening, which is the basis for the film, is he's fascinated with flying, as his grandpa.
Yeah.
And he knows all about bats. And he's fascinated with bats because of how they can hear. And his dad actually, he says, you shouldn't call it the what thing, you call it the bat thing. Cat, he was going to call it the cat something.
Yeah.
The hearing aid, he said, call it the bat thing. Because bats can hear, kind of amazing stuff. It actually influenced his dad's thinking about doing more development with the hearing aid.
Yeah.
But then Grandpa makes some wings that look like bat wings with a little cradle he holds over himself.
Yeah.
And he's got a little helmet and stuff like that, and he goes running around when he's 5.
Yeah.
In the field outside his grandpa's shed, and he's pretending to fly. I won't say everything about it, but what really impresses me about the film, now, he is a prodigious child. I mean, he gets to the point where he's in middle school, well, he's in kindergarten, he's bored. They put him in elementary school, and he does it for a while. His mother doesn't want to put him in like a special learning, like for brilliant kids kind of thing. She wants him to be, but she really pushes him to do his piano stuff, but not like this story with this thing. She's encouraging, but she's also kind of pushing. He's 12 years old and he's visiting his grandfather. It's a really interesting scene. I don't know how he did it. How many times they had to do it to make it work.
Yeah.
They're walking along a path and he's saying, asking his grandpa a question like, no, he tells him, he says, I wish I were normal. He says, well, you're normal. No, Grandpa, I'm not normal.
What did I say 2 episodes ago?
Yeah.
We're not normal.
No, but he especially not normal. And he knows it.
Yeah.
Because by the age of 12, right, the middle school teacher tells the mother he should take I'm going to put him in to take his high school exams so he could finish school. And she said, 12 years old, you're going to send him to the university? Now he's already started at some point before that to study with a professor at the conservatory who took him on personally. Right. But this kid really it's just coming from, it's like Mozart, it's from inside. And he works, I mean, he's a hard worker. Oh, yeah. And he's able, I think what genius really is being able to see the connections in things and work away the problems that get in the way of total integration. Yeah. Famously, I don't know if it's true or just a story, but Michelangelo was asked how he carved David, what was his inspiration? Yeah. He said David was already in the marble. Yeah. I just cut away everything that was in the way so it would reveal him. Which I think is a really interesting idea. And ever since I heard that story a long time ago, I approach my own problem solving in my music the same way and try to encourage my students with that as well. The piece is there. In many cases we hear it, we know it. Yeah. Listen to recordings by playing it. So there is something there. There's something that hopefully you uniquely find with it. But most of your work should be not about like constructing something from the ground up. Like don't rebuild the wheel. Yeah. The wheel's already there. The concept is there. You know how a wheel works. Yeah. Get the other shit out of the way so that the wheel spins. And it does its thing. And it will do it inevitably in a unique way because you're involved with it.
Yeah.
Well, he says to his grandpa on the path, I just would love to be normal, you know? And his grandfather takes his hat off. They're standing at this little stream,
yeah.
And he throws it. And it really, I think it really happened, maybe. They had to practice it.
Yeah.
But it swirls all the way across the stream and lands on the other side. Not exactly sure what the connection is with that, but his grandpa's advice is, then be normal. Why do I do that? What's normal? You know,
Yeah.
the people around you, the way they do things, do that. Because the kid is just like overwhelmed with being so wildly smart, and he feels completely separated from his student
Yeah.
friends. And
Yeah.
I mean, he's smarter than most people he knows, including the adults.
Yeah.
And so then he goes into kind of a funk, and he gets very temperamental with the family. And there's a huge storm one night. And I've been in some of these, well, in Colorado, but also in Switzerland.
Yeah.
When you're up in those mountains where the clouds are,
Uh-oh.
the lightning and stuff is next to you, not up above you. I mean,
See.
serious, scary storms. It's a big one. And his mom and dad are asleep, and he has his bat wings that his grandfather made for him a few years before.
Yeah.
And he gets the thing out, and he goes out on the terrace,
Yeah.
the balcony, and he jumps.
Jumps.
Then they find him. His mom thinks something's wrong. She gets up, she goes, she notices they're missing. She goes on, and then she looks down, she sees him laying. The ambulance goes pulling up there, down there, and he's like knocked out, you know, like.
Yeah.
And then he goes in the hospital, and they do MRI and stuff on him like that to see what's going on. And then the doctors say, it's amazing, there's no bruises, there's no markings, anything like that.
Yeah.
But they did say, you know, with brain injuries, because he was unconscious.
Yeah.
Wasn't waking up, wasn't responding to anything. And they say, with brain injury, you never know, because also it doesn't show up instantly.
Yeah.
So what happens subsequently is he's moved into a normal school program.
Yeah.
With regular kids, and he doesn't know the answers to things.
Yep.
And he's trying to play the piano, and he's making mistakes and stuff, and his mom gets really frustrated with him. And he takes certain tests concerning his intelligence and stuff, and she sits down with the doctor, and she said, he's normal. She said, well, what does that mean? I said, well, normal. She said, well, like IQ, like, what is that? She said, well, we hadn't seen it necessarily administer that kind of thing, but she said, I would say it's probably 120, you know, which is average.
Yeah.
And she just goes, but he was 180 before. And, you know, maybe even more than that. And she said, we don't know with brain injuries, you know.
Yeah.
What could have been damaged or what, you know. And so the mother is just sad with herself because now I have, you know, this kid who had all this promise and all these possibilities, and now he's just
a normal kid.
And he spends more time visiting his grandpa because he's not really playing the piano at home.
Yeah.
Supposedly, and he's kind of lost interest in it.
Yeah.
Doesn't really care. So he spends time at his grandpa's. His grandpa has a piano, and he's playing a recording of the Bach Goldberg variations. And he's listening to it, and then at some point he cuts it off, and by ear plays the very same passage work in one of the variations.
Yeah.
And his grandpa's listening, but it's in the very same place, and it doesn't sound any different from the performance, so he doesn't really realize it first.
Yeah.
But what's really cool about this is rather than being like most music piano movies,
Yeah.
which are always, you know, this struggle of the artist to play the
Yes.
piano, and it's all
It's
focused on the piano music
romanticized
and all this stuff and everything.
Yeah.
The piano is kind of an integrated part of it, but it's about the boy and his struggles with who he is and how he's going to survive. Well, he's really good at math. He's a polymath, like Stephen Huff.
Yeah.
You know, really, he's got to work it. So much so that he figures out in a very critical moment, he's using a special hearing aid device which can listen farther away.
Yeah.
And he's hearing his mom and dad talking, and his dad's really upset because he got fired, and they're in big money problems. And his grandfather's only said, as says at the table one time, I figured out I can afford to live for 5 more years, and then I'm going to have to die because I'll run out of money. And he's going, oh, but Grandpa, So this really pushes him to start thinking. Now, he's been secretly playing the piano, and Grandpa starts to know.
Yeah.
But he and his grandpa have bonds, and take it to the grave. I promise I won't tell anybody. So please, Grandpa, don't tell him and stuff like that. He talks to his grandpa, and his grandpa has something like, with his building and his savings and his pension, 386,000 Swiss francs. Yeah. And he's telling him, he said, if you sign this paper, I can get in on the internet and go into the stock market, and I'm going to buy the stocks in his dad's company and other things. He does other stuff with the money, and we can make a blue fortune. This is what's really cool about the grandfather.
Yeah.
Grandfather is so cool.
Yeah, I know.
I love Bruno Ganz. He's a wonderful actor, very compassionate. First time I ever saw him was in Der Untergang, which is the bunker, where he plays Adolf Hitler in the bunker at the end of the Second World War.
That's a rough one.
Brilliant job. The best Hitler I've ever seen. And he brings some kind of humanity to the role in a way. But then I've seen him in some other films. Bruno Ganz is up there for me big time. But he's such a wonderful character in the show. And this is how much he loves his grandson and trusts his grandson, believes in his grandson.
Yeah.
He signs over every penny that he's worth.
Oh, gosh.
And the grandson invests it.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that night, after they've got all the money invested, and it's probably in the summertime, because the sun is up like at 2 o'clock in the morning. There's light out. Yeah. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm gonna have a heart attack. It's everything I own, everything I've had, it's all gone. Because nothing has changed. Because at first the stock is
falling,
tumbling way down, losing tons of value. And the boy said, "It's okay, Grandpa, it'll be okay." Then about 4 o'clock, he says, "Here it goes." And things start to change. And within 12 hours, he went from 386,000 to over 3 million.
Oh!
And
I remember that.
within a day, he said, I checked my bank account within a day or two. He says, now it's like 5.5.
Oh, God.
And he said something at some point to the boy about, about working. You have to work in life. And he said, well, yeah. But he said, in this case, the money is working
for you.
Yeah. And the boys made money for his grandfather hand over fist. Yeah. He also invested money himself from his own account. Yeah. And now he's got money. No. His parents go off on some trip or something. Yeah. And he's by himself. And next thing you see him renting out this full high-rise floor. Yeah. Looking out over the city. And this older man there, and he says, you have a month's rent, or a year's rent, paid in advance, and and here's the papers and all that kind of stuff. This guy's looking at this 12-year-old kid, hands him the keys. Now, I thought he was getting it for his parents. No, it's his own place. Exactly. He gets a little bit of furniture and stuff, but the first thing he gets is a Yamaha grand piano. And a stereo system, and he starts going out and buying CDs and bringing them stuff. And it got some nice suits, he's wearing stuff. And what he does is he buys out his father's company under the name of Dr. Wolf, and makes his dad president of the company.
Yeah.
So his dad's all depressed and everything, thinking it's all over. He goes into the office and he goes back to the son who's been taken over the thing and fired him.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll work in the mailroom, I'll do whatever it takes, I need to make money, I'll do whatever, and you pay me whatever you can. And the guy's just thinking, you're such a shit for coming in here, doing this, how dare you? And he hands him his letter of resignation and storms out of the office, and he's stunned. He's like, what the hell's going on? The secretary comes in and refers to him as Mr. President and says, what? You know, and then suddenly he realizes something's happened. So, the other cool thing is, after he's made like 3 million francs or something, the boy comes over and there's this machine going, woog, woog, woog. It looks like something from Star Wars or something inside his workspace.
Yeah.
And he climbs up on the stairs and he opens the door and says, come on in. It's a flight simulator.
Oh, God.
Remember this?
Yes, I do.
And they go in and they sit down and he said, look, here's the Rhine River and here's the airport and this and that. And they're learning how to fly.
Yeah.
And he said, can I do it? And he said, well, if I'm your co-pilot. But basically what's happening is that, after he's made 5 million, then they go to the airport and his grandfather's bought a plane. He buys a plane.
Yeah.
And as the film goes along, then what's happening? The father knows that he's the president of the company, but they don't know who this Dr. Wolf is. Eventually, they do. Eventually, they find out. But he's been doing all this stuff. And the really cool thing is that his grandfather had some kind of accident. He was finally repairing the roof on his plane, and he rolled off. And his neck is in a brace and all this kind of stuff. But the rest of the family leaves, and he talks to him, he grabs his grandson's hand, and said, I flew. And he goes, for real, Grandpa? He says, yes, I flew. And he said, you know the gate that's locked out there? He says, I got my cutters, and I got the keys, and I went to the airport really early in the morning, and I cut the chains, and I walked over, and I got in and turned on, and I flew, Vitus, I flew. And he flew. And so the film begins that way, but then it ends this way as well. Where Vitus, and you don't know what he's doing, he's got his bag, he does have a suit on and his coat and everything, and he's walking through this countryside, and he comes up on this fence, and the gate's locked, and I'm thinking, oh, this must be outside the area where he's got a concert or something. So he shoves his bag over the fence, and then he climbs over the fence, because he forgot about the cutters, but he has the keys. He goes out into the airfield, and he climbs up and gets in the plane, and there's a mechanic working on a plane away from him. And he sees his kid flipping the thing on with the propellers starting to go. He's going, no! And he learned what his grandfather said. You know what you got to do when there's no runway? He says, you gun that sucker up, gun the motor up as fast as it possibly go, keep the brake on, and then release it, and it will lift up immediately. Because that's what he does. And it jumps up and flies over the fence, and he's flying over Switzerland. Wow. But in the end of the movie, his grandfather had written a letter in the hospital about the mother and the father and the boy, and the love they have and all this and that. Finally, at the end of the concert, at the end of the movie, he's playing the Schumann piano concerto with the orchestra, and his mom and dad are there, and his girlfriend is there. Well, she was older than him and was his babysitter and such. But he loves her, and he knows at some point he's going to marry her. And he loves her. You know? What I loved about the film was it really wasn't about the piano. No. It was about this extraordinary little kid. And what the grandfather is talking about in the letter, he's finding a way to fit in the world with his brilliance and to have a life that he had to make, you know. It's amazing. The kid's a multimillionaire. And his family's safe. You know, and his grandfather, I don't know if his grandfather is dies, I think. But his grandfather realized his greatest dream, which was to fly. You know, and Vitus takes off, and there's a beautiful view. It's just Oh my God, it's so heartwarming. Both Laura and I were crying at the film. It was a beautiful film. I cannot recommend enough. Thank you so much for
you're very
listening
welcome.
to it. It's one of the best things I've ever seen. And it's so beautifully done, and it just flows and rolls together in such a natural way, which is part of the, because there's some amazing things going on. Because this kid, the actor, both of the actors, the 5-year-old and the 12-year-old, are piano prodigies. And he's actually performing the Schumann Piano Concerto, which is no easy feat.
Oh no, it's not.
I recently, just a few months ago, bought, who's the guy from Brooklyn? Murray Pariah.
Murray Pariah?
I bought this wonderful, 1 or 2 CDs, I think it is, of works with piano orchestra. Murray Pariah. I have to say that's the most lovely performance of the Schumann I've ever heard.
Yes.
Beautiful. The Schumann is unique because it's so interwoven. It's not your typical piano versus orchestra.
No, it's not.
Kind of piece. And there's some wonderful performers. Clara Haskell's, wasn't he her student, the one who died of something, the Romanian pianist.
Oh, Dino Potty.
Potty, yeah.
The Potty.
The Potty. That's a good performance.
Yeah.
There's some fine performances, but really Murray Pariah was amazing. I think it's Claudio Abbado probably.
Yeah, that's the one.
Is it Vienna or London Orchestra? I forget. But this kid is playing the Schumann Concerto. And what I love about the choice of the repertoire is probably one of the most integrated of all piano concertos. And that's what he learned how to do with his life, with him, with life. And keep the family together and keep it all going and the people he loves. And it's amazing film, people.
Vitus.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I loved it.
I wanted to tell a story today, about overcoming, things in life. Years ago, I think it's been about, let's see, I'm 60 now. So this is well over 30 years ago. Well over 30 years ago. I had a piano student. I had him for about 4 years. He was just a kid. He was adopted. He was born with certain birth problems, particularly his hands. Particularly with his hands. I won't mention what happened with his hands, but he didn't have hands that were, well, they would definitely hamper most pianists. Okay, definitely. And during my last year of his lessons, we were going to be having recitals. It would be my last one, and it would be his last one with me. And I asked, he worked very hard. He was not a gifted pianist, but what he was able to do, despite what he couldn't do with his hands that normal kids could do, he did very well. He was very smart. I asked him what he wanted to do, and he said, since he's been taking lessons, he's always wanted to learn to play Billy Joel's Root Beer Rag. So I let him do it. Okay, I let him do it. Not by far, the stretch of the imagination was one of the best performances, but I couldn't help but admire the kid for wanting to just do it. Okay? For what he has, I would give him an A+. It really was. I mean, I don't know if you know the piece "Root Beer Rag" by Billy Joel.
I don't know that particular one.
Yeah, but it goes fast.
Who wrote those ages? Right way back.
It was the Delusions and Fantasies.
Yes, I have the book.
Yeah.
I
Strange.
should get that out.
Yeah. So, but anyways, yeah, this kid, he would probably be 30 by now. He's 30. But I'm not going to go into much details about what our piano lessons were about. But he amazed me every week. He amazed me every single week. Learning chords, learning to move out of position. He moved. I mean, he played pieces beyond what I would respect or expect. He worked with great detail, much more so than some of my other students, who you had every advantage to be able to be better pianists and better students. Anyways, I hope if you're out there watching us, you know, you have a place in my heart.
Oh.
You know, I'll never forget you. But anyways, it shows me what the possibilities of the strength of the human spirit.
My father didn't want to teach me. He said, my father was a piano teacher and a pretty good one, and he himself studied with a great teacher. He was also Ellsworth's teacher way back then in Springfield. Dad always said, if I knocked you off the bench, you'd think it was me as your father rather than me as your piano teacher.
Yeah.
So I want you to learn from a piano teacher.
Yeah.
And I had some tough ones coming up, but I was thinking about this. You know, there's some famous struggles. Think about a number of them. I mean, Bach, his parents died when he was 12 or 14 or something
like that.
Raised by an uncle or an aunt or something like that. And there's famous stories about him when he walked 200 miles
to go
in the
see
winter to hear
Buxtehude. Yeah,
up in Hamburg.
I know.
Or
That
Bremen, somewhere
amazing.
up there.
Yeah.
He was quite the physical guy.
Oh yeah.
And Haydn went off to sing with the boys' choir.
Yeah.
Then he got his voice changed and he was kicked out. And was living on the streets of Vienna.
Actually, there were other issues with him. He cut off some kids' hair.
Yeah, he was a monster.
I love it though. I love it.
But then look, I mean, he became Papa Haydn. I mean, my God. And Mozart's a different story. I don't think his father was abusive.
Oh no.
I think he had an interesting life as a child. But Beethoven's dad was bad. He was a drunkard.
Yeah.
And he used to come home drunk. He was a musician.
He sang in it.
He was a musician.
He sang.
And but he'd come home smashed and wake the boy up and thrash him, make him go to the piano and practice things like that.
Because he wanted to make a Mozart.
Brahms was playing in a brothel in Hamburg when he was 10 years old. And for a few years, I think 12 to 14, something like that.
Yeah.
He made money for the family. I don't remember the personal stories, but they lived in a tenement building in Hamburg. And Brahms was one of the money makers from the age of 10 for his family.
As well.
And interestingly, he never married because he learned to enjoy the company of the ladies of the night. He was famous in Vienna. He'd visit, the brothel or some nice place, and always goes, Herr Dr. Brahms, we're so happy to see you. And he was a very happy boy, apparently. Now, there's a strong likelihood he may have, or may not have, but there was definitely a very strong emotional bond with Clara.
Oh, yeah.
Clara Schumann. But there's a number of stories of some musicians who struggled, and I've shared my own personal. I'm not putting myself up there with those guys.
Schiffer.
But,
Schiffer.
Schiffer was in the concentration
camps, for a number of years. His career was put on hiatus, and he was carrying cinder blocks all day and breaking boulders with sledgehammers, and
I once heard a pianist who came to Wittenberg, a woman, professor. I don't remember so much about her, but I think it was rather extraordinary. For 10 years, she was in one of Mao's concentration camps.
Oh, gosh.
Wasn't allowed to ever play for 10 years. They couldn't listen to music or anything, but eventually she got back to it, and she was a piano professor in Beijing.
A Van Cliburn competitor back in the early or mid-late 70s. A Van Cliburn competitor competitor, Chinese. Look him up. His name is Zhu Daming. Daming was his last name. Zhu Daming. And he was just a few years out of the revolution. And he remembers being a laborer, and he remembers taking piano lessons before everything fell apart. And he would practice under the bunk bed, double bunk beds. On the bed. And that's how. And by the time it was over, the whole thing was over, and he was allowed to practice again. He wanted to compete.
That's an interesting thing for you young people to think about.
Yeah.
That do you remember what it was called? The something revolution, cultural revolution.
Cultural revolution. That's what I'm talking about.
In China.
Yeah.
It was in the 1970s or 60s.
I think it was the 60s.
It lasted about 10 years.
Yes,
and then Mao died.
Then Mao died.
Then it was Deng Xiaoping who came in after
Yeah.
but started to open things up a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a bad time those years because
They repressed story is amazing.
Everything about Western culture.
Yeah.
And if you wore glasses,
Yeah.
you'd get thrown in prison
Yeah.
because it meant that you read. So they were really working to dumb down and just make little Mao babies, with
Yeah.
those funky little puffed outfits and gray suits, and then amazing, you got long. I hate the guy, but
Yu Zhou Wang.
other people, Yu Zhou Wang, she's a little prodigy,
Yeah.
And now I understand that the economy's creating some effects there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, the piano talent
Oh yeah.
coming out of China and the piano making.
Yeah.
Lordy. Everybody and their mother was playing the piano.
The violinists, the strings, they're coming out of there.
I understand that the market is seriously affecting things recently, but yeah, so we talked about that last week and a little bit this week, that making music can come at a heavy price.
Yeah.
And I would say for me personally, it's absolutely been worth it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I said last week, there's certain things I wouldn't want to relive.
Yeah.
But
Ditto.
nonetheless, and then, my God, some of them were extraordinary. Look what happened with Beethoven.
Yeah.
Probably the single most famous composer in history. And the things that he left behind, the late works, the Ninth Symphony, the Eighth Symphony, even
Oh yeah.
Fifth Piano Concerto, the Fourth Piano Concerto, the late string quartets, the Mass, Choral Fantasy.
Orchestra work, the filled overtures. Oh gosh.
So we kind of talked ourselves through this one really fast.
Yeah, we did. It's 2 hours.
Yeah.
Okay, well, folks, this will
We're
end.
trying to keep
PSI
it
at
at
the
a reasonable.
movies. This ends PSI at the movies. Concludes it. Probably ends this episode as well. So.
I know you brought a whole bag full of stuff.
Oh,
Next
that's
time.
okay. Oh, next time. Definitely next
And
time.
I didn't get to talk about her.
Oh,
Next time.
Okay. So, anyways, I hope you enjoyed our content. You know what we need. We need some likes and we need some subscribes. Okay, and if you can, please give us some comments below. All right, and even if you don't have a comment, you could punch out a bunch of emojis if you want. Okay, that would be helpful.
Do you guys like this show?
Yeah. But yeah, anyways, yeah, we'll be back to you again next time with some more stuff. Okay, anyways, this is
Marc
and I'm
Elmer.
and we are Marc
and
Elmer'S Psi
Piano Scene Investigations.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
folks.
give us a thumbs up and all that nice stuff so we can keep going. See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye!